Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to one of a series of the NTG Webinar series. My name is Denise O'Leary. I'm in TUDublin and we're hosting this webinar, which is about the new skills requirement for tourism in a post-COVID world. And just before I introduce the speakers, just to give you a little bit of context about NTG and what it's all about. The NTG Alliance is a partnership of 16 partners from industry and education across Europe. So 8 different European countries. You can see the countries there. I would urge you to go take a look at the NTG Alliance website. So one of my colleagues will put the link in the chat there for you to click on. And you'll see in the website, there's already a set of tools and resources that are available for people. The NTG Alliance is focused on developing partnerships to identify and address tourism skills needs across Europe, which of course have become even more difficult in a COVID world and in a post-COVID world. So as I said, there's a range of tools and resources available on the website. And they're there for you to use and to engage with. And one of our speakers is actually going to be talking about one of the toolkits that can be used. One of the things that we're also working on at the moment, as well as working on and developing and piloting those tools and resources, another thing that we're working on is developing a blueprint for identifying and addressing tourism skills needs across Europe. So the NTG blueprint for tourism. And as part of that initiative, we're working very closely with the European Commission. So DG GROW, which are the Directorate General for internal markets, industry, entrepreneurship, and SMEs. So we're working with DG GROW on the Pact for Skills for tourism in Europe. So the Pact for Skills initiative is a European-wide policy initiative, and it's the first flagship action of the European Skills Agenda. And it's focused on engaging with a range of stakeholders, including industry, social partners, education, government agencies, semi-state bodies, etc., to look at how we might identify and address skills needs across Europe. So that's one of the things that we're working on at the moment and into the future. So as part of that initiative, we're not going to talk specifically about that today, but you'll see those Pact for Skills links are in the chat for you to go and take a look at if you'd like to, or if you'd like to actually sign up to the Pact for Skills initiative. What we are going to talk about today is new skills requirement for tourism in a post-COVID world. So we have a great set of speakers. I'm delighted to welcome them. And I'm just going to introduce them one by one, and then we're going to have a question and answer session at the end. So I would ask you, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll be able to pose them to our speakers at the end of the seminar. So I'd like to first introduce Rob Rankin. So Rob is the founder and owner of Vagabond Tours. So Vagabond Tours are Ireland's leading small group tour operator. It's won many awards. It's the only Irish company to be chosen as one of National Geographic's Travelers 50 Tours of a Lifetime Award. Rob is also a voice for sustainable tourism in Ireland. So not only through the actions of Vagabond Tours, but he's also the owner of Sustainable Travel Ireland, which trains and certifies Irish tourism businesses. He's got lots of hats. He's also the president of the IOTA, which is the Incoming Tour Operators Association. And he was the founding chairman of the IAAT, which is Ireland's Association of Adventure Tourism. He also sits on a number of industry working groups and committees, and one of those is the Tourism Recovery Oversight Group. And that group was set up by the Irish government to oversee the implementation of the Tourism Recovery Plan, which was set up in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've invited Rob along today to share his experiences from all that knowledge and experience. So I'm going to pass over to Rob now and thank him very much for presenting today.
Thanks, Denise. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for the invite from TUDublin and the NTG Alliance for the opportunity to speak today. Much appreciated. And I'm just going to share screen. That's right, view. There, so hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to apologize now for my PowerPoint skills. It looks more like a school project than anything. But I suppose, but down to the subject of the post-COVID skills required for tourism, I was going to start at the top, really, the need for progressive and sustainable management and leadership skills, really to bring tourism out of the current crisis and make it sustainable long term. I think Denise has kindly covered this element. I'm the founder and owner of Vagabond, owner of Sustainable Travel Ireland, president of ITOA and its resident tree hugger, founding chairman of IAAT, and husband and father of 3 and youngest of 6, which apparently accounts for my food anxieties. My message today is that the post-COVID world will hopefully give tourism the opportunity to reskill and rebuild in a way that is more sustainable and with greater equity between the industry and the workforce. This will require new skills across the board, but it's possible, and I think it's an exciting project that lies ahead of us. I'm not going to dwell on Vagabond. I think it's been covered already. But one thing is to note that we've always had a very strong emphasis on quality recruitment, team training, and upskilling. We've always considered ourselves to be a progressive and ethical employer, and we've always invested heavily in training in the team. And I think that has stood to us in many ways, as we've grown through the pandemic. And also, we're actually the first travel company in Ireland to be certified by B Corp, which is an international standard for certification, and our team management is very much part of that. As mentioned, I'm also the owner of Sustainable Travel Ireland, and we train and certify Irish tourism companies to a global standard in sustainability. So I think, I think two of the biggest and interlinked challenges facing tourism as we recover from COVID is how we make the sector more sustainable and how we rebuild and reskill our management and our teams. And the two, for me, are inextricably linked. In fact, sustainability, I think, is part of the solution for rebuilding the tourism workforce. And I think what I want to focus on for the next 10 minutes or so is less on the grassroots skills of tourism hospitality, such as chefs and drivers and guides and adventure instructors and waiters and etc. I want us to focus more at the manager, the business owner, and the industry leader levels, not only on what new skills and new directions take, but also, why do we need to change, and how has the pandemic contributed to that need for change? I think there is a very strong, compelling business case for progressive, sustainable approach to recruiting and training staff, and any business who adopts it is therefore going to have quite a strong competitive advantage over companies that don't. So just to go back to to the why, and I think we have to look at the Irish tourism industry going into the pandemic. It was booming. We were big hitters both abroad and at home. So 9.2 billion euro business, 250,000 employees, Ireland's largest indigenous employer. And then abroad, of course, we had a worldwide reputation for excellence, a combination of Ireland's inbred natural hospitality and years of training experience, right from all levels, from bar staff, so guides, drivers, adventure instructors, up to management levels, and to the entrepreneurs as well. Mainly small businesses following a relatively sustainable business model. So we were doing a lot right, but we were already seeing that there were some issues with skill shortages. Chefs, for example, roles that required languages. With the boom of the tech industry in Ireland, a lot of language speaking skills are being taken up there. And the issue is very much on the radar of the industry, I think, and also of Fortune Ireland's Tourism Development Agency, who had already several years ago formed the Careers Oversight Group with the view to encouraging recruitment into tourism and upskilling and training within it. So it was going well. And then, of course, as we all know, the pandemic hit, and we've suffered massive upheaval over the last 18 months as we've had to deal with reduced hours, remote working, reduced teams, and constant firefighting and uncertainty. And there's absolutely no doubt that we've learned quite a few new skills along the way. For example, remote working, and how to manage ourselves working from home, but also at a management level, how to motivate and manage your teams and try and keep everything going. We've all learned new IT skills, how to share our screen and how to unmute, and more importantly, how to mute at times. We've had to learn new HR processes. That as employers, we've been given this absolute minefield of HR processes with layoffs and redundancies and working hour reductions and remote working, and so there's been a lot to navigate there. And then, of course, there's a whole new form of customer service as well. We're used to the buzz of interaction, of making the sale, of reaching targets, of meeting the customer, and delivering a first-class products, and then suddenly it switched to sort of firefighting and apologizing and just trying to make the best of it and keeping everyone up to date. But a lot of these skills, are here to stay. It's taught us resilience, and these are all skills that are going to be useful for the recovery and for the future. There's no doubt about it. And I think also, once the initial shock was overcome, with most smart businesses have also taken the time, to take a look at themselves and to make internal improvements, to survive the pandemic, but also to come out the other side stronger. We've seen implementation of IT systems and CRM systems because we've had the time to do it. We've had new marketing initiatives. We've developed new products. Some companies been able to pivot to a domestic market or a whole new market, a whole new set of products. We've seen the emergence of new flexible customer terms and conditions, improved processes and procedures, upgrading and refurbishing equipment and premises, and implementing cost efficiencies. But unfortunately, a lot of those cost efficiencies have been team related and HR related, in terms of reduction of roles and training budgets, salaries, and all the benefits. And I know that firsthand from my own business, as we've had to reduce the workforce as the pandemic has unfolded, especially near the end of last year when we realised that this year was going to be another disastrous year for international tourism. But hopefully things are changing, and now is the time to rebuild and see what skills we need moving forward. We're also very lucky, as mentioned, that the government took some fairly fast, strong action. They formed the Tourism Recovery Task Force to develop a plan for recovery from 20 to 23, independently chaired across all sectors of the industry. And several of the recommendations that have come out of the plan directly relate to employment. So, for example, here they are. There's retention through engagement, so introduction of 10 million program of professional development supports and strong digital content to help those laid off and reduce working hours. What's important here is, of course, as the businesses lost the budgets to do all this training and further personal development, the Fortune Island government stepped in with programs to keep these team members motivated, and also actually to help employers with their HR minefield and all this kind of stuff. Very, very important. There was one of the recommendations is for more oversight, insight, and coordination to strengthen the careers oversight group that I mentioned before, with more research, more coordination with other departments in academia and the industry. And then training to develop an easier one-step shop for all training for anyone who wants to work in tourism. And then a focus on quality and standards to ensure consistency in terms of quality and content of education. So really strong recommendations, really important, and are really going to help with the industry coming out of the other side of this. Now, there has been a bit of research into the Irish tourism workplace recently, and just to give you a very high-level overview of it, there's been positives and negatives, and it's come from employees and employers. And I think most of them probably did kind of exist beforehand, but it's been amplified by the pandemic. So, low pay, uncertain work schedules, not knowing when you're going to be working next weekend, all this kind of stuff, not clearly laid out for a long time in advance. Pressurized work environments. We've all seen Ramsay's Kitchen, and I'm sure there's a buzz working in a kitchen, but there's also a lot of pressure, lack of timely employment contracts and defined career paths, and lack of feedbacks and appraisals. And I think as people have been at home, they've, and been laid off or working remotely, they've had time to reassess and take an aerial view. And we've seen a large number of people who may have been laid off who are just simply not coming back to the industry. Having said that, there are plenty of positives, and there's also the possibility of turning these negatives into positives with the right skills. So, we've had a massive passion for the industry was identified. Strong career aspirations to, entry level into the industry, to go on to be to management level, but also to an entrepreneurial level as well, which is equally important. Myself, I started my own company having worked in the industry. How many restaurants are owned and operated, small businesses? There's the teamwork environment, the buzz of working with good people, and there's the flexible hours. It suits some people to work flexible hours. And through simple steps, and some skills, that a big difference can be made. It's not just all about the pay, as I'm going to come back to a little bit later. Proper inductions to a role, the availability of current terms and conditions of employment, regular appraisals and feedback, and improved communication skills. We always say at Vagabond, it's all about keeping the mojo. You've got to have the hard systems, and I think it works very well when small companies think like big companies. So they take on the HR compliance and the hard systems, contracts and appraisals, and how sophisticated recruitment policies. And then it works very well when the big companies and the medium-sized companies take on the culture of the small companies and a small community-like feel, and getting that equity between employers and buy-in, and giving feedback, and having strong core values and rules of the game mapped out. It's very much, I think, about making your team feel safe and feeling valued. And that is, I think, is a huge skill. Where are we? I think it is an exciting time. Look, the thought of rebuilding my team, I say, is very exciting. We've lost a lot of, some members due to layoffs and redundancy. Others have left, as I said, due to the uncertainty and of the sector. And so that has left gaps in, for progression, but other team members to move up, to upskill and to take those roles. And what's very important as well is we've also managed to keep hold of our core of a team. So we've got a lot to rebuild. And but I think the skills we have to focus on now are those that are going to help us retain, motivate, and engage the current team to prevent any further loss, and then those to recruit team members at the right time, to further the recovery. Now, I did mention sustainability as well, and I think this is absolutely key. We hear a lot about building back better, and it's impossible to discuss the future of tourism without bringing sustainability. It's much more than just a buzzword. It's here to stay, and it is absolutely interlinked with recruitment and the people who work in the industry. When we talk about people, profit, planet, a good proportion of those people are our teams and our management. So we need to upskill to make our businesses more sustainable, not just from an environmental point of view, but so that we can tell our stories to the customers and also to our future and present employees. Upskilling and motivating, engaging team in sustainability is proven to significantly improve staff engagement and motivation, reduce staff turnover, which of course is a massive saving of financial and disruption. And as it shows here, it's really, really important for attracting high quality people into the industry. Like most millennials there, it says we'll take a pay cut to work in an environmentally responsible company. I'm not sure if that's true, but the point is it does, the stronger your sustainable brand is, the simpler it's going to be to recruit. And we see businesses doing it already. The Armada Hotel in the West Coast here, big expansion plans, but very much sustainability and staff welfare is front and center to their recruitment. And likewise, Wilderness Scotland, a company a bit like Vagabond in Ireland, and 9 reasons to work at Wilderness Island. They've got to sell it, and there are 9 great reasons to work at Wilderness Island. So I think it's really, really important that we bring these skills in to the workplace, and it's going to help us recruit, and it's going to help us engage. So just to sum up, I think I keep getting text to say I'm running out of time. We learned a lot of skills over COVID, which I think are going to come in very handy over the next few years. But I do think new management skills are required as much as the grassroots skills to retain and rebuild the workforce. And I think we need to build in sustainability and progressive employment skills. It's a great opportunity for Ireland to rebrand, and Irish tourism and tourism to rebrand as a really progressive, sustainable place to work. And if we can do that, then I think it'll be a very good long-term future for the industry. So that's me. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't go off topic.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Rob.
I even managed to unshare my screen. Okay. A new skill.
Great. That was really interesting, Rob. I like the idea of small companies acting like big companies and big companies acting like small companies and taking on some of those lessons. So what we might do is leave the questions to the end, and I'll pose any questions that audience members have then. So thank you, Rob. Our next speaker is Alan Smullen, and Alan was the general manager at the Crow Park Hotel, which is a member of the DOYLE collection. He was there for 11 years as GM. He's recently been appointed as head of people for the DOYLE collection. So that role is focused on the strategic implementation of their people strategy. So all about people and skills. Rob worked his way up from the front desk in the Crow Park Hotel and has gained a lot of education and training and CPD along the way. He was the IHI Young Hospitality Manager of the Year in 2013 and was a finalist in the General Manager of the Year in 2019. He's very much focused on the importance of people and supporting people and creating a positive work environment. And one of his favorite quotes gives an idea of his leadership style, which is, leaders don't create more followers, they create more leaders. So over to you, Alan, to tell us about how that happens.
Thank you very much, Denise. And that was a fantastic presentation by Rob. I'm sure everybody got a huge amount out of it. Just setting up my presentation here. I suppose the introduction there gives a bit of a brief background about myself, but I'm very, very lucky to work with a company like the DOYLE Collection, the family-owned Irish hospitality company. We've 8 beautiful hotels, and we've got 3 in Ireland, the Westbury in Dublin, the Crow Park also in Dublin, and the Riverlea in the beautiful city of Cork. And we have 3 stunning properties in London, the Marylebone, the Bloomsbury, and the Kensington. And then we have a fantastic hotel in Bristol also. And then over in the US, we have the DuPont Circle Hotel in Washington, DC. So spread around those different cities and those different hotels. We have a fantastic reputation in the industry, and it's one that we're very proud of, one that we work hard on, and one that we know that we have to continuously work hard on. It's about a warmth of service. It's about beautifully designed hotels, but it's about an experience being delivered by our team members, and it's about making those experiences for our guests really, really memorable. Those luxury experiences that guests are now looking for, especially as we come out of COVID, they're becoming even more important for people now to have a nice breakaway, to maybe get away from the daily lives that they're having. And we know that our team members are the ones that ultimately deliver that. I've worked for the DOYLE Collection for over 16 years. It has been a fantastic journey so far. As you rightly said, I did start on the front desk in the Crow Park and worked my way up. Very, very honoured to be appointed a general manager there in 2010, and very, very recently moved into this new role as head of people. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about learning and development and culture. Passionate about making sure that we have a really, really positive environment for people to work in. But I'm also really, really aware that the end result of all of that is the guest satisfaction and the guest's experience. We've also, as Rob mentioned a number of times, we do feel that now is the right time to look at this area and look at skills and look at competencies, because the world is very, very different right now. It's very, very different than hospitality. It's quite bumpy, quite rocky at the moment, but I think it is the right time to look at those skills. And some of those skills that maybe we had forgotten about, or we had pushed down the list of priority, they're coming back to us now, and definitely coming to the fore. So when we sit down and we look at what those skills and competencies are and what are we looking for in the industry as we move forward, and not just in the DOYLE Collection, I do think the very first one is attitude. And I think everybody can bring a positive attitude. And if you are unable to bring a positive attitude to your day, hospitality is probably not the right career path for you. And I'm not talking about anything too different or too difficult here. I'm talking about how are you approaching your day? How are you approaching your team, your colleagues? How are you approaching your week? Is it positive? Is it constructive? Is it performance driven? Because that attitude that you bring every single day into work into your role, that's what drives the overall culture in your team and in the wider team. I'm not saying that you have to be happy every day, because we all have different things going on, and people have things going on outside of work, which over the last 24 months have been extremely difficult. But I still think that people bringing the right attitude is such a key core competency for people to look at as we go forward. I do also think that something that we have to look at is empowerment, and it's not in a theoretical sense. It's bringing the ability to solve a problem. It's on thinking on your feet. It's looking at an issue or a problem that may be happening right in front of you and trying to come up with a solution to it yourself. And I do feel that skill maybe we had kind of moved a little bit away from pre-COVID, but I think it's a really, really important one. Hospitality is so fast-paced, it's ever-changing. You've heard it a million times before, but no 2 days are the same, but it's true. And that's sometimes, and mostly actually a lot of the times, to do with the fact that you're facing different challenges, because we're dealing with people, we're dealing with the general public. And those two go together. Have you got the attitude to bring to the table when it comes to figuring something out? At a leadership level, I think this is absolutely core. It should be something that people are very comfortable with, solving problems, coming up with solutions, and thinking outside the box a little bit. Multitasking is also something that I feel that maybe had moved away pre-COVID from being at the forefront. But I think it's definitely a hot topic in the industry. And of course, we're still going to need specializations. We're still going to need people who are specialized in certain areas within the business. I'm thinking finance, I'm thinking maybe sales and marketing, PR, I'm thinking in the kitchen, very specialized skills. But there's also a huge element then of a multitasking approach to be taken. And I think multitasking for our guests, it doesn't need to downgrade the level of service that's been delivered. I think they understand, and I think they're happy to see people absolutely trying their best and trying to assist instead of maybe just walking by. I don't think this is anything to do with people being able to do the task. I do have a general feeling myself. It's about whether people are willing to multitask or not. Very easy one to put up on a slide, but you could talk for hours on it. Interpersonal skills. It's about being a good listener. It's about having an ethos of being part of a team and understanding what that is, and helping your colleagues and understanding that they're going to help you out when you need it. But also it's about having an openness for feedback. And part of the hospitality industry is getting constant feedback, and it never stops. So being able to deal with that and knowing that that's coming at you is quite important. I also think it's really important for people to want to learn. And coming into the industry now, we need people coming into our industry and wanting to learn, wanting to progress, wanting to develop, wanting to grab different opportunities that come at them, and having that open-mindedness where, yes, I will actually have a go at that. It mightn't necessarily have been something I spoke about or thought about before, but something that I'm definitely looking to do. And lastly, but not least, enthusiasm. You have to bring energy to your day. You have to bring enthusiasm to your role. You definitely have to bring enthusiasm when you're delivering a memorable service to the guests. And I think it's really, really important that we highlight that, and we look for that, and we talk about that. And that's down to the leadership in different hospitality and tourism organizations. It's about creating that environment for people so that they can be enthusiastic, and they can have a little bit of fun and enjoy their day and enjoy their time in work. Lastly, we need a smile. And when you put all those things together, having that smile is still absolutely vital. And I always say, sit down to an interview with somebody and they sit opposite you and there's a big smile greeting you. Already there's a real positive feeling around the interview. And I think it's still something that has been important previously, but is also still something that we need to continue to look for and drive in terms of bringing that positive attitude. So how we do that in the DOYLE collection, and we don't get everything right, far from it every day, but we absolutely try to continuously improve. We have a focus on our proud people. Our people we call them our proud people, and it's about our culture, and it's all links back to our proud values. We have those values are intrinsically linked right throughout our business. It's about belonging, it's about personal, it's about generosity. and there are our core values. When you see them on the screen like that, they probably just jump out as a couple of words, but belonging is about a warm welcome. It's about loyalty. It's about team well-being. Being personal is about that intent of service, that going the extra mile, empowerment, which links back to a couple of my earlier points. It's team benefits. It's about some perks, and it's about making sure that we're looking after our team members. That generosity part is huge. It's about those extra touches. It's about thoughtfulness right throughout our day. It's about delighting our guests every now and then, maybe a little gift, a welcome gift, a departure gift, just something to mark a special occasion. But then for our team members, it's about team reward and recognition, which is obviously really huge. We need to live those values every day. They can't be just on the wall in the staff restaurant, or they can't be on some of our collateral. They have to be lived and driven right throughout our business. The next key ingredient is trust, and that's trust on a large scale, but also trust down to really, really individual relationships. On the right hand side of the screen there, you'll see three blue boxes there. So the team member is there in the middle, and they've got three key relationships: the relationship with their job, the relationship with the overall business, so how they feel about the place of work, relationship with their colleagues, with their teammates, and then relationship with their immediate manager. And those three relationships are absolutely critical in driving a culture of trust right throughout a hotel or a restaurant or a bar or any tourism or hospitality establishment. And that trust grows and grows and grows. And what we found is over the last two years in particular, we had built up a great trust bank, essentially, with our team members. And when it came to delivering really, really difficult news, as Rob alluded to earlier, we felt that we got some really positive feedback from our team members, because they trusted that we were doing the right thing in these difficult times. And that takes a while to build up, but it was a focus of ours, and we talked about it and we measured it. We know that we have to celebrate our successes. We know that we have to face the challenges head on. I have a saying that I would have said to a lot of my team a number of times. I've never, ever experienced a situation where a problem or a challenge gets solved in the smoking area of a business or in the canteen of a business. It gets solved by getting it out on the table, getting the key stakeholders involved, coming up with solutions together, and then driving them and executing them. We have to celebrate our successes though. And I think sometimes we forget about that a little bit in hospitality, and that's another definitely a learning for everybody going forward. You can see there our green team in the Bristol Hotel awarded Green Tourism Gold award, which is fantastic. And we've an internal module live in our learning development program, Proud to be Green, that gives everybody an opportunity to learn about what we do in terms of sustainability, and also how they can assist with it. We also partnered with Triade, and you can go onto their website and have a look. They do some fantastic work there, and we have a guest element to it and also a team member element to it. When they get some recognition points in our Proud Points program, they can actually donate them to Triade. 5 points they can get 1 tree, and 10 points they can get 2. And all these things engage the team members, celebrate the successes, face the challenges, not just inside in the business, but also externally, but it involves them and it makes them part of it. Then when you come to inside in the business, we've got GDPR, obviously, a huge part of dealing with data and a huge part of everybody's daily life now. And you can see there some might be a little bit small, but a couple of different images of our GDPR day here in our head office. And that image then, where you can see the team from the Westbury absolutely soaked, where they done a darkness into light run in aid of PA the House, which is a fantastic organisation, which helps people who are affected by suicide or by self-harm. But again, it all builds into that culture of the team members being engaged, and ultimately delivering a positive guest experience. Our learning and development pathway is something that we're really proud of. It's something that we're reviewing constantly, and something that we try and develop and deliver opportunities for everybody right throughout the business, not just at leadership level. We have a fantastic supervisory program which I'll talk about in a second. But that image on the screen, it's a Zoom call, which how many hundreds have we all been on over the last 24 months? But this Zoom call was a call that came from a discussion around our leadership table in early 2021. And what developed out of the discussion was the issues that some of our team members were experiencing in the area of mental health. We developed a program for mental health first aid, and we rolled it out to every single manager who was working in any of our hotels or in head office. It was a mental health first aid course. It was absolutely fantastically well received, and it gave people at leadership level a chance to develop in this area, which maybe they hadn't had the opportunity to do before, where the skills were very focused on the tasks at hand. And this was definitely a new departure and a new learning for the team. And it was a hybrid model. Obviously, we couldn't get into a classroom together, and so it was delivered online. This is our Proud to Lead program, which is a program that we put in place. It's one of a number of different programs that we have aimed at kind of supervisory level, people heading into maybe their first leadership role, or they're in their first leadership role and they're looking to widen their leadership skills. That's about leading people, leading the business, leading the teams, but also about leading themselves and making sure that they're fully aware of how that works. And I know the guys are going to talk about it in a couple of minutes, but the different areas that we would look at in terms of the Proud to Lead program: personal productivity, effective communication, leading quality. There's an introduction to finance module, an introduction to revenue, and leading performance, how to motivate your team. All those modules are completed by the Proud to Lead class and delivered by leaders, senior leaders from within our business. And given that level of care and attention to the team members in terms of looking at their development opportunities right across our 8 hotels. All of those items put together, we feel, helps deliver that positive, that performance environment. But it still goes back to those core skills, those core competencies in terms of attitude, in terms of solving the problem, in terms of multitasking, your interpersonal skills, wanting to learn, having the ability, the willingness to learn, and bringing that enthusiasm to all of these different areas. And I think that's something that we need to definitely refresh and look at as we go through the forward. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to talk to everybody, and I hope that you've got something out of that presentation. Thank you, Denise.
That's great, Alan. Thanks a million. And as somebody who has sat and had coffee in the Westbury and had that lovely luxury experience, I can certainly attest to that. That again, really interesting. Your focus on soft skills actually backs up what we found in the NTG project, where we did surveys all across Europe, and soft skills are hugely important in our industry. That's what, it just comes out again and again. Okay, so again, we'll hold the questions till the end. I think there's a couple of questions coming in for you on the chat, and I'll ask them at the very end. So in the meantime, I just want to introduce Roisin McKee, who's our final speaker. And Roisin is County Director at People First International. People First is an industry-led skills expert, so they support businesses to build and develop and retain skilled workforces. So Roisin actually has experience in the tourism and hospitality industry, and now she's moved into that role in terms of supporting industry. The focus is on working in partnership with industry and government and education providers, and facilitating a diverse range of skills solutions. So I'm going to pass on over to Roisin now, who's going to talk a little bit about the tools skill set, which is in the NTG, part of the NTG project, because People First are also an NTG partner.
So thanks, Denise. Good afternoon, everybody. Just bring these slides up here. Denise, if you could just confirm you're able to see those on the screen, okay?
not actually in slideshow mode, Roisin. We could see your slide, but it's not in slideshow mode.
Is that us now?
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Look, yes, good afternoon, everybody, and I'm delighted to participate in this webinar this afternoon. I'm Roisin McKee from People First International. We're the UK partner in the Next Tourism Generation project, which Denise has already noted in her introduction. My contribution this afternoon really is to provide an insight to a new toolkit, which we were the lead partner for, which has been developed as part of the NTG project for use by a range of stakeholders, education training providers, industry, government agencies and individuals, to be able to review and address gaps in digital, green and social skills requirements in tourism. So just by way of background, at the outset of the NTG project, research was carried out across the 8 European partner countries with industry to find out what the green, social and digital skills were required in tourism, both now and the future. And the research focused on 5 subsectors as shown in the slide. From that information, a skills matrix was developed, which showed the knowledge and skills required in those 3 core areas across 8 levels. And with organisation sizes, they were grouped into less than 10 up to 250 or more. The matrix that carried all of those competencies was then used as a data reference for us in developing all of the resources in the toolkit. So the toolkit itself consists of a set of resources that can be used by a wide range of stakeholders, across education and training organisations, employers, government departments and individuals, to enable them to review the skills requirements in those core areas of green, digital and social, and to use the toolkit to support them in developing and or adapting their own resources. So depending on the end user, the toolkit can be used for checking what digital, green and social skills are required, for curriculum, qualification and training or programme or course reviews, for identifying training needs and creating courses, for helping to build job profiles, person specs and career pathways, and supporting continuous professional development. It also provides examples of good practice and resource along with downloadable session plans for use. So the following slides I'm just going to go through will give you a bit of a preview of the toolkit sections and how the resources can be used. So looking at the mapping section, the mapping documents, we've got 8 spreadsheets, 1 per level. So you've got levels 1 to 8, and the content is taken directly from the skills matrix. And each spreadsheet level has then 3 worksheets showing the green, the social and digital skills. The mapping documents can be used, as I said, by a wide variety of stakeholders, and for many, they'll be a useful tool to identify strengths and gaps. And this slide shows some of the main users that we anticipate would use the mapping documents and why they would find them useful. So organisations and individuals can use these tools to compare some of their existing resource against identified lists of skills and knowledge. And you can see examples here for whether that be the training providers in terms of reviewing courses, employers or managers looking at identifying training needs and creating courses or building job profiles, etc. There's also example job profiles included, and they're not complete profiles, but they show the green, the social and the digital elements of the role, and that makes it easier to compare existing profiles for those specific areas. They've been created for roles at different levels and a mix across the tourism subsectors. So we have roles included such as environmental education officer, events manager, head of marketing, head chef, housekeeper, etc. They'll not only be useful for HR departments, employers, managers, for the recruitment, retention performance management appraisals or CPD, etc. But also for training providers or awarding organisations whenever they're reviewing and developing curriculum, and individuals who want to look at progression and employment opportunities. The session plans and resources make up really the biggest bulk of the resource that's available in the toolkit. We've got 38 topics covered at varying levels, made up mainly of the EU levels 3, 5 and 7. In total, there's over 70 blocks of learning with full lesson plans and presentations. Some have handouts and or assessments attached to them as well. They've all been written up to a maximum of 3 hours per session, and designed to be independent, bite-sized learning interventions, and to provide an example of best practice for that particular topic or level. So they can be useful, as I say, for training providers, education establishments, or indeed HR and training departments, employers and managers. So it's a huge bank of resources that's freely available for anyone to access and adapt. So on the screen here, you can see that the green blocks show the sessions that have been developed for the toolkit. So these are the green sessions. And you'll see actually how the skills matrix comes into play here as well. So in this slide, we've got the social skills, and then the reference to the blocks in green alongside is where sessions have been developed against those. And again, the same for the digital sessions that have been developed to correspond to the sessions within the skills matrix. There's also explanations and guidance on how to use the toolkit for the various users in the 6 sections that are outlined on the screen here. So it's everything from a general introduction to the toolkit, to how to use the mapping documents, developing curriculum, which is specifically targeted at training providers and educational establishments or large organisations who've got formal training programmes, and it gives them a guide on how to actually use and adapt the resources. There's a HR framework included as well, which is a section aimed particularly at HR departments and managers who've got that HR responsibility. And then there are also sections that look more specifically at the use of the toolkit for the individual and also for smaller businesses. Lastly, there's also extra resources available that don't necessarily fit into any of the previous categories, but they've got templates and guiding documents, for example, on adapting to virtual delivery. And these are just the links to further information about the Next Tourism Generation project, which Denise has referenced in her introduction. It has information and available resources around the research results that were carried out and access to the toolkit, etc. And there's a direct link to the toolkit as well. So just to say that I hope this overview has given you really a taste of just what a huge and fantastic resource the toolkit will be for many organisations and individuals, and that you in your role can benefit from some of the tools and resources to be able to support your work as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Roisin. That was great. A nice whistle-stop tour of
Exactly.
a huge range of resources and tools that are available on the NTG website. And as Roisin says, they're available for everyone to use. So we have a few minutes left. I'm just going to, I've actually a couple of things that I want to ask you, and there's also some questions coming in on the chat. So just, Rob, I might start with you. I think we're kind of lucky in Ireland. I'm aware that there is an international audience who are actually engaging with this webinar. And I think we're quite lucky in Ireland in that we have, we have a National Tourism Development Authority. We have a department that has tourism as part of our remit. We have the Careers Oversight Group in Fáilte Ireland. We had the Tourism Recovery Task Force that you're a member of. So there's lots of, national level sort of initiatives. I wonder, in terms of what you talked about, is there any lessons in what you talked about for people from other countries that they might be able to take away from this session?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we are, excuse me, quite lucky. It's quite a kind of, as someone said the other day, it's quite a collegiate environment within tourism. We're represented strongly at government, although we would have liked our own Department of Tourism, has to be said, but we've got a good minister for the last 18 months, which is great. We have, as you said, strong development agencies which do a lot more than just marketing to Ireland abroad, but actually developing the product, developing skills, research, insights, that kind of thing. Reaching out, they've been in constant touch with the industry over the last 18 months. Regular advisory group calls, lots of reaching out. So that's been fundamental. And I think also the industry is also represented by some strong associations. So like the ITOA, like the Adventure Association, the Irish Hotels Federation, visitor attractions, and it's very important that they give the different sectors of each sector of the industry a voice at the top table. So I think between all that, between all those organisations, I think we have a very strong tourism community here, which has definitely helped us get through this. And when we've needed funding, we've been able to come together and lobby for funding. When we've needed other stuff, we can bring it to the attention of the government. So, as I said, tourism is a big employer here. 250,000 almost employees around the country, and that's the length of the breadth of the country. Often in rural communities. So it's a very powerful political movement and a very strong economic movement as well. So I think we are lucky, and I think we are lucky with the joined up thinking that we have.
And do you think there's anything in that people from other countries might take away or might learn from what you've talked about?
Well, I suppose the thing is you're stronger together. So as a sector, like the tour operators, we're stronger as an association. As an industry in Ireland, we're stronger together as a group of associations, and then the overseeing association, ITIC, and then again with at departmental level and with the tourism agencies and government. It's much better if we're all pulling in the same direction. So I think it's very important that you have the right culture in these organisations, and it's a one of collaboration and honesty. I mean, it's not just you have to be open and honest, but I think if there's a culture of collaboration, then it makes a huge difference. So I'm afraid I don't really know what's going on in other countries. And I know that in Australia and New Zealand, they seem to have similar setups, but I'm not really sure, to be honest. But I think there is probably plenty to learn anyway.
I think that feeds in nicely to what I was speaking about earlier about the Pact for Skills and the importance of collaboration to address, the tourism skills needs across Europe. So thank you for that, Rob. There is one question in the chat there for you, Rob. You talked about the new customer. Can you elaborate a little bit on this and what that means for skills development?
Yeah, well, actually, I was thinking that the employee is the new customer, and if you have to rate the importance of an employee and a customer is obviously king, right? But I mean, say for example, Vagabond, we take 3,000 people on tour a year, but we have 30 members of staff. So if you work out the relative significance of one member of staff, that's pretty high. And I think we need to sell our companies and our jobs to potential candidates in the same way that you would sell your product to a customer. So I think what was really getting at really was that we do have to treat everyone like a customer. But I do think there will be changes in consumer trends on the back of COVID. I think sustainability will come to the fore. I think people are more aware of it. It's hard to tell, but I think certainly the people who are traveling at the moment are probably more resilient and than they have been. They seem to be very enthusiastic as well when they get to the destination. Maybe it's a sense of relief that they've finally got there. And I think we've seen that people are looking for more experiential experiences, spirit, and rather than just a fly in and fly out tick box type thing. So I think I think we'll see a continuation of that in multi-generational travel, and those kind of trends I think will increase as time goes by. In terms of the skills we need, I think it's, again, I think as Alan was saying, it's listening, it's the customer service, it's empathy, and then then there's the sort of the hard skills that you need alongside that as well.
Great, thanks, Rob. I suppose leading on from that, Alan, you mentioned problem solving as one of the things that has become more important through this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Is there anything else that you think, any other skills that you think have become more important because of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because the last 24 months in some ways have been so different for hotels. They've been closed, they've been reopening, they have had to limit their times of service, limit how they serve the guests, limit how close they can get to the guests, limit how close they can get to each other, all of these different things. And in some instances, those rules or guidelines were changing overnight. So that ability to adapt was definitely a key one. And I suppose that leads into problem solving, in that you've got a new set of guidelines coming at you. You have to apply them. So can you think a little bit differently around them, and can you come up with a solution to it that fits in your property? Because obviously the guidelines were national guidelines, industry guidelines, and how does that work, and how does that fit in your space, in your hotel, your restaurant, or your bar? I think also that problem solving side, it's become nearly a necessity because of the experiences of people over that time. But also it's no news to anybody, especially on this webinar, that the industry is facing a huge shortage of talent. And there are certain times over the last year, 18 months, where maybe pre-COVID, there might have been a number of different people on the floor, or a number of different people in a department to assist. And sometimes those numbers hadn't been there in the last 12 months. And the team member on the floor, they were put in a position that they had to problem solve. So I think that's where that came to the fore. And I think multitasking fits into that. Rob just mentioned empathy there, and I think that's a huge one. Having the ability to put yourself into the guests or the patrons' shoes and see it from their viewpoint and see how they're experiencing it. I think that links back into that problem solving. So yeah, the empathy is huge.
And there's a question from clearly an educator there who's asking if you think those skills are innate or they can be learned.
How long have we got?
You've probably about 30 seconds.
Okay, I think absolutely you can learn how to solve problems. I think there's many different tools out there and structures that you can teach yourself to go through a process, identify the problem, look at different solutions, think outside the box. Have you got experience in something similar? I think you can there. I think multitasking, you absolutely can learn how to multitask, but I think you have to have that willingness to learn in order to get better at the multitasking.
Thanks, Alan. Roshan, there's a question in the chat for you there. Somebody is asking if providers have the scope to adapt the training sessions or develop in the toolkit for their own purposes. And also if there's opportunity for individuals and companies to get involved in piloting the toolkit.
Yes, so I mean, in terms of adapting the resources, it's expected definitely in the most instances that people would actually download the resources and actually adapt them and contextualize them for their own use. So they've been designed in that way, so absolutely. In terms of pilot opportunities, we're currently piloting the resources within the toolkit across the 8 partner countries within the consortium for NTG, but we would be willing to have any organizations, individuals, whether that's across education or training, government agencies, or indeed training providers that want to get involved. If they want to drop contact details directly maybe through into yourselves, Denise, and then we can pick up and link them in terms of how they might be able to participate in the pilot activity, which is going on right through now into the end of January.
Perfect. I'm very conscious of time. I'm just seeing here, is there any other questions that we might be able, actually, I'm just seeing we're time up. So look, I'm just going to finish here. There were a couple more questions in the chat, but you had covered a lot of it in your presentations. Just want to say a huge thank you to our 3 speakers, Rob, Alan, and Roisin. We very much appreciate you sharing your insight and your experience with us today. And just a note to the audience, go ahead and keep an eye out for the other NTG seminars that are the webinars that are coming up over the next few months. Thanks, everyone.